Just be glad for all you have that's in today.
Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to my blind reaction to JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Vento Aureo, or Golden Wind if you prefer, episode 21. So yeah, this is just over a week late, unfortunately, because we weren't able to get to it on its release day. And I'll say right off the bat, we are not reacting to episode 21.5, the recap episode. Just because it's a recap episode, just like the one we had, I think was 13.5. And it's not going to be any new content. It's just recapping what happened since the last one. So, last we left off, Bruno has basically decided to betray the boss after he's come to a realization that the boss just wanted to get his hands on Trish to kill her himself in order to keep his identity hidden. So the boss has kidnapped Trish right from under him while also just taking her. I'd say he took off her arm, but it's more like he took her off the arm itself. Or I think it's just the hand, but either way, the hand that the hand that Bruno was holding on to while they were in the elevator. Bruno managed to get to the stairs where the boss was heading down and confronting him. Unfortunately, the boss's stand is King Crimson, and King Crimson has a time ability. It was brought to my attention that all the main JoJo villains that we've had since the entire time stop, or since the entire stand concept was brought in part 3, all of our main villains have had a stand relating to time. Obviously, Dio's The World had the ability to stop time, if only for a few seconds, but still. We had Yoshikage Kira, whose stand Killer Queen gained the ability Bites the Dust, which had the ability to basically reset time. Reset time back to a certain point. And now we have the boss of Passion, whose stand apparently has the ability to just seemingly control time in general. I forgot exactly what the straight up specific of it was. It was something along the lines of like seeing time or skipping through time or something involving the future, because he had Bruno like see his future self before an attack or something like that. Like I said, it's been a couple weeks. But yeah, it's like that's an interesting thing. Will the bad guy of the next part also be related to time with their stand? Who knows? I mean, I do know one thing about the next part, about part 6, but I'm not going to get into that right now. There's only one thing I do know about it, and I don't want any other spoilers, so yeah. So, considering after this episode we do have a recap episode, most likely in episode 22 we're going to start with the new opening. People have said that it's going to be starting soon, and that they're working their way into it. And yeah, I can see how this could be a good part. I still think it should have started earlier, personally. But, excuse me. But I still see, if they're only doing 2 openings this time, I still see how this is at least a valid point to do it. Now, also, in the last episode, we had Bruno supposedly get fatally injured by King Crimson. And I stated back then, and I still stand by it, that Bruno's not going to die. Bruno is one of the 2 main characters of Part 5 here, along with Giorno. He's not going to die. Not this early. If he does die, which is very possible, it's not going to happen this early. Or he's either going to survive or they're going to pull an Avdol on him. If you remember in part 3, I mentioned this before, but I'm mentioning it again. In part 3, Muhammad Avdol was thought to be killed off at one point. I don't remember if it was Jay Guile or Whole Horse who actually did it. I'm leaning towards Jay Guile, but I'm not 100% on that. Mainly because Whole Horse was kind of a dipshit. Um, being honest. So I'm leaning towards Jay Guile, but I'm not 100%. But yeah, Avdol basically faked his death and he came back later on. Um, they might do that with Bruno, but I feel like that'd be a little bit of a little bit of just just redoing the same shit as in part 3. So my best thought here is that he's just not going to die. That Giorno's going to be able to get to him in time and save him using his golden experience or not golden experience, just gold experience. Either way. um, Now I don't know what else is going to happen with like the other team members. I don't know like if the boss is going to end up running, if they're going to be able to save Trish or not, if we're going to actually see the boss's face here. I don't know. There's so many different options with this. Um, I really don't know exactly where this is going to go, but I am excited to find out. I really, really wish I could have gotten to this sooner. I wish I could have gotten to it last week, and then again this past weekend. I just was not able to because, as you know, the entire shit that went down with me having basically an emotional breakdown because of my computer. But you guys know what happened. You saw the videos I posted earlier. You guys know that Too Old for Fandom and Smurf Vlogs came through, got me the money I needed in some of the just most generous, amazing experiences I've ever had on this channel. Well, definitely the best on this channel. And it's definitely up there in just terms of my life. So yeah, it's like I'm getting a new computer very soon, as soon as I can, basically. And again, as I stated in those videos, I'll still probably use this computer for as long as I can, because, I mean, it still works for now. It's just apparently having a cooling system problem, which is a big issue, because if this thing overheats, it could cause major issues with the computer, and basically cause it to just really get shit out of luck and crap out. I've had computers in the past have overheating problems. My brother and father, and I think my sister has had that issue as well. And yeah, it can cause computers to just completely crap out on you. It can ruin everything. So, yeah, I mean, that's why the entire notice when it comes up, it says, oh, there's something wrong with your cooling system. Turn off the computer and bring it to get repaired now. That's what it says, basically. So it's like, yeah. I mean, obviously, I didn't have the money to get it repaired. I didn't have the money to get a computer either, but, I mean, you guys came through for me on that one. Um, and I talked a little bit about it in the other videos, but yeah, it's the Dell Inspiron computer. It's a good deal, and the graphics card is a little better than what I have on this computer. I don't think it's good enough to do Elder Scrolls Online or Shadows of Mordor, but it's still a little better. So certain games like Skyrim or Head in Time or Hollow Knight will probably run better. So yeah, there is that to note. And I think the computer, it's just a better computer overall, I think. I will have to get used to Windows 10. I'll have to transfer everything from this computer over, at least copy it over, because again, I'll still be using this as much as I can. That computer's probably, the new one's probably going to be like, especially for like when I take things places, when I go places or whatnot, I can take that with me. But yeah, I'm going to try to get as much as I can out of this computer still. But the new one, I definitely needed it, and I thank you so much, Smurf and Tools for Fandom, for being so generous and giving me the funds needed for this. I think I already even have a ride situation planned out. I might be going just straight up tomorrow. Because the money should be arriving in my account tomorrow morning, because the transfer from PayPal usually only takes a day. And if you put through the transfer before 7 p.m., which, I mean, it's only 4 p.m. now. When you put through the transfer before 7 p.m., it usually arrives like usually 6 a.m. the next day. Now it's a larger amount, so it might take a little longer, but it hopefully shouldn't. And hopefully, as I said before, my credit union doesn't get suspicious or any shit because it's such a big amount. Either way, I'm really excited for that. I don't fully know what I'm going to do with that computer in terms of recording yet. Again, I'm going to have to see how it works. I'm going to have to get used to Windows 10. I'm going to have to get OBS downloaded on it, get everything handled there, and probably test it out. So I'm going to still use this computer, at least for the time being. Also to note, that computer has a webcam built into the computer, like this one does, except this one, the one that's built into the computer, doesn't work. So that's why I use the USB one. So I'm going to also test out how good that webcam is, and if that one's really good, like maybe even better than the USB one I have, maybe we'll even end up using that for a good amount of recordings and stuff. Or maybe even switch over to it full time. There's a lot that's going to go into this new computer. I was actually suggested, someone commented, I don't remember exactly who it was, I think it was Matthew, commented, oh, you should do an unboxing. And it's like, at first I was like, oh, that's silly. But then I thought about it, it's like, that's actually not a bad idea. Especially because it'll be another way for me to thank Smurf and Too Old for Fandom. Besides just what I'm already doing, by giving them the ability to choose to have me react to something. Sort of like how I do with the Megastream donations, but they're getting it really high priority. Like, Smurf chose Dragon Prince, and I'm starting that on Friday. So yeah, really quickly coming. Either way, yeah, I'm excited for this episode of JoJo, and I hope you're excited too. So, in the meantime, we're just going to get this started. So when the screen fades to black, you're expecting a bumper there for the 666. We're done with that now. When the screen... Oh, I'm getting self-referential. I had fun doing that, by the way. I had a lot of fun doing that. Not as many actual people reacted to it as I was hoping, but I had fun actually putting that in the redirects. Either way, when the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black, then fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts, and will contain spoilers to the episode. So that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. Okay, and we are back, and we will begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So, you all know by this point that I do tend to have biases in a lot of these shows, and in terms of a lot of the content of them. Not just in JoJo, but pretty much any show. Whenever a character I really love, like my favorite character especially, does something especially awesome or epic or really grand, or they have this big character moment that really helps to define them from that point on, yeah, it really, like, I have this bias towards that. And, I mean, a great example of this would be Weiss from Ruby. Weiss had a very huge series of moments in volumes 4 and 5. And she grew, like, in an amazing way in her struggle with having to deal with her father. And it was great. And I love the stuff they did with Yang. I love the stuff they did with Blake and even with Ruby. But because of my bias towards Weiss as a character, my love for her as my favorite character of the show, I do have that bias towards her story, towards her struggles. I felt more for her than for the others. And again, not to say I didn't feel anything for the others' stories and struggles and everything, but my bias did lead me to feel more for her. It's the same in My Hero Academia, when Sue had that emotional moment in Season 3, after everyone went to go and try and rescue Bakugo, and she felt like she failed. She felt like she had failed in trying to protect her friends, on trying to keep them from going. that was one of the most emotional um, moments in the series for me. One of the best moments in the series for me. And I admit, it's because of my bias towards her. It's because she's my favorite character. And it's the same thing here. When I saw them all turn around and I noticed Narancia was shaking like a leaf, I knew they were about to do something with him. The fact that he was keeping quiet as well while everyone else was starting to give their little moments, like, oh, Fugo's like, I can't follow you in this. I agree with your mindsets on what you did, but I can't follow you here. And then the others start to go the opposite route. It's like, what you did was basically suicide. What you did was stupid, but we're going to follow you. We're going to remain loyal to you. And Fugo's just like kind of like freaking out because they're doing that. And it's just, you see Narancia continuously shaking. Then when you see him turn around, you see that pained look on his face. It broke my heart. And again, I admit, it's my bias. Narancia's my favorite character. I think he's freaking adorable. He's really hilarious. I enjoy his personality. I enjoy the humor that goes along with him. And I've always wanted there to be more with him. I've wanted them to do more with him as a character. So when he turns around here and starts vocalizing his terror in this situation, the fear he's going through, when he's begging, pleading Bruno to just order him, he's showing that Narancia, that he's a character, that he's a person who is not just altogether the most courageous, the bravest person. He's not. That his fears, that these kind of situations terrifies him to such a point that it cripples him. And that's why Bruno told him, you're not cut out for this. Don't come. It wasn't being mean. He was actually trying to protect him because he knew how terrified Narancia was. And then we see Narancia notice the bleeding hand of Trish. And he puts together how honestly, how similar they are. He puts together that how they've both been betrayed by the people they loved. By the people who they thought loved them, who they wanted to connect to. By their own family. And he realized at that moment that, yeah, he's terrified, but he needs to protect her. That he understands what she's going through and he needs to be there for her. Because he understands. And this is the kind of moment that normally I would use as massive shipping fuel. If I didn't already just generally ship him with Fugo. However, I can still say that I like both ideas. I like the idea of both of those ships. I like Narancia with Fugo, but I also like him with Trish because of this. Because they do have that big major connecting factor. And I really hope that even without a necessarily romantic kind of angle going with it, I hope that they do build a relationship between Narancia and Trish. I really want to see that gone into. But the reason I'm bringing this all up is mostly because, like I said, I wanted them to start doing more with Narancia. They've done so many big stuff with Bruno, with Giorno, and with Mista. Those three have been the major focus of our team. Abacchio has not been anywhere near as much. He kind of has this almost static, gruff, and kind of bad boy, angry personality. He's constantly doubting everyone, and especially Giorno. I think the only one he's really truly loyal to is Bruno. Even though he said he wasn't, even though he said he was loyal to to Passione, we know he's loyal to Bruno. And it's just like, Narancia had some great moments, especially in his fight. where we saw Aerosmith for the first time and all. That was fantastic. And again, Naranja's had some great moments in terms of his character and seeing just the amount of fun he is. But at the same time, admittedly, he hasn't had a lot of depth. And that's the thing. When a character becomes my favorite, a lot of the times it's more because of their personality, their aesthetic, their just general entertainment value, and usually it's the depth that is added on later that cements them in that place. I mean, Weiss is a huge example of that. And to be fair, I actually hated Weiss in season 1, in volume 1 of RWBY. She was actually my least favorite member of the team. It was in season 2 that she started to warm up to me, and Blake actually took a back seat for me. And then in volume 3, it's she and Yang were definitely cemented as my two favorites. But it was really volume 4 that cemented her specifically as my favorite. Before that, in volume 3, it was kind of back and forth between her and Yang. But with this here, it's like, Narancia was my favorite very early on. Pretty much since we met him. And I just think that this depth that's being given to him with this, they could do wonders with it going forward, and I really hope they do. I really hope that this goes in some really fantastic ways, but as usual, do not tell me. Don't tell me where this is going at all. Now, 2 more things of note. The boss has declared that they're not getting out of Venice, that he's going to stop them from getting out of Venice. And also, we still have not seen a battle with the leader of the assassination squad. I mean, we've seen a very small glimpse at what his stand is, but we don't even really know what was going on there. At least I don't. So he's still going to come into play too. Now, if we are going into our new opening in the next episode, which is very likely, especially considering what just happened, I definitely think that both him and the boss are going to be featured in it, and probably some new characters who we've yet to meet. The voice at the end, who was kind of informing about the betrayal, and specifically Bruno and Giorno, I don't know who that was. I don't know who that was supposed to be. I didn't recognize the voice offhand, but a lot of times I don't, to be fair. I didn't recognize the voice offhand. I don't know who that was. It wasn't the boss. I know that for sure. It was a much younger sounding voice. So I assume it's just a character who we haven't seen yet. Maybe one of the boss's inner circle. They mentioned the hierarchy of Passion before? I don't remember if they mentioned if the boss did or did not have like a second in command. Like a specific advisor that reports directly to him. I think they did. Because I think that the capos report to the advisor and the advisor reports to him. Because even the capos don't know who the boss is. So I assume that's what, if I'm remembering that right, that's kind of how it went, but I don't know for sure. But if that's the case, that's who this might have been. And here's a question. Will the other capos be coming after our team now? And what's Fugo going to do? Because Fugo did not join them. Will Fugo actually be coming after them? Will Fugo declare his loyalty to Passion and the boss instead? I would actually find that an interesting idea. To have Fugo declare his loyalty to Passion and the boss and actually be sent after them. And then maybe they do eventually convince him to rejoin them. But that he actually attacks them using his really creepy ass stand. And yeah, that I think that would actually be really interesting. And that could actually develop him and give him the depth that I feel he needed after he was kind of really skimped over in his episodes in favor of Giorno and Abacchio, but especially Giorno. Either way, this was a great episode. It was a great way to conclude what we got in episode 20. And like I said, that part with Narancia, probably my favorite part in this entire series so far. I know, the reveal of King Crimson should be my favorite. I know, it's such a big, important part, but that's got to be number 2 to me. because, like I said, my biases are there. I am biased. I think everybody has biases. To be fair, everyone has certain characters they like more than others. Everyone has certain episodes or story plot points or whatnot. And that goes for any show or any game or even books or comics or whatever. So it's not like I'm alone in saying that I'm biased here. It's just my biases here specifically lead me to really just adoring that moment with Narancia. And yeah, I just I think that really just hammered in that he's my favorite. It really just hammered it in for me. And I assume that I'm going to end up using something from that scene as my thumbnail. You'll have already seen the thumbnail by this point, but I assume that's what I'm going to end up using if I can find a good shot that'll fit within the dimensions and everything without having all the text and whatnot on the screen. But either way, tell me in the comments below what you thought of this episode of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 5, Vento Aureo, or Golden Wind if you prefer. Tell me what you thought of how they ended up getting past King Crimson, your thoughts on what might be happening with Bruno. I didn't bring that up, but yeah, something's up with Bruno. I do think it's him. It's not that I think that this is some kind of trick, that this is a fake Bruno or anything. I do think this is legitimately Bruno. But something's clearly wrong. Something's going on here. And tell me your thoughts on the fact that Fugo was left behind and that Narancia had that huge character-defining moment. And as always, no spoilers. So, in the meantime, thank you once again, and for now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.
And though you've come through many obstacles,